Welcome to this video about identifying learning styles. So we've introduced you to learning styles, VAK, visual, oral, kinesthetic learners. People do tend to favour one of those learning styles or sometimes a blend of two, but very rarely do people like to intuitively learn using all three styles. But the question is, how do we identify people's learning styles? Well, the big answer here is there's some tests. There's various types of tests, and you can search the internet, just put in learning styles test, and you will find stacks of tests that you can use to identify your learning style or other people's learning styles. But aside from that, because we haven't really necessarily got the resources to test all of our students to find out what their preferred learning style is, we need to perhaps sometimes work it out as we go. And the way we typically do that is by observing our students. So what we want to do in this video was give you an idea of some of the ways that you can practically do that if you're in a class situation or a one-on-one training situation with someone. How do you find out what their learning styles are? So let's get started. Sometimes one of the ways we can do this is by watching people's eyes. Now, this might sound a little strange, but it can work. So you ask a question and then you see what people do with their eyes. Watch where their eyes goes when they're thinking up a response. And it's different. Sometimes people's eyes go up. If they go up in the air and they're thinking and they're looking for some sort of visual reference, they're looking up into their head for something visual that's going to help them, the chances are they're a visual learner. But if their eyes don't go up and instead their eyes go from side to side, almost like they're looking at their ears, oral learner. Okay. Now, I'm not making this stuff up. Research has shown that this works. Not always, but it works consistently. The oral learners tend to let the eyes drift from side to side. And then you've got the kinesthetic learners. And the kinesthetic learners tend to look down. They look down trying to think, okay, almost like they're looking at their hands thinking, what have I done that's going to help me answer this question? What have I done? So watch people's eyes. It's a very interesting technique. Now, we'll give you a couple of examples now of other ways you can practically identify people's learning styles. And my favorite personally is when you ask people for directions. You ask people for directions, they do very different things. Some people want to desperately go and find a map or draw a map. And the reason for that is because they're visual learners. That's how they would want to be taught. They would want a map to use. So they'll go find your map, they'll buy you a map, they'll draw you a map, they'll put it on a napkin, on a serviette, they'll give it to you and say, this is what it looks like, this is where you've got to go. Those people, dead set, visual learners. Then you've got your oral learners. They like to learn by hearing things through their ears, so they will do the same for you. They will teach you and they will get your ears working and they will sit there and explain very difficult, detailed instructions by just talking to you. And you need to have these switched on very carefully if you're learning from an oral person who has strong oral learning styles tendencies. And then there's the people who will literally take you there. They want to enjoy the journey with you. They'll take 5 or 10 minutes out of their day to actually walk you there because that's what kinesthetic learners do. They take you there. They walk the walk with you. Interesting, isn't it? Have you ever been in grocery shopping and you go to one of the staff at Woolies or Coles or wherever and you say, I can't find tomato sauce. Where is tomato sauce? You'll see these things work. Okay, you'll see that sometimes the staff might take you to the directory and they'll show you the directory and they'll say, here it is, it's in aisle 3. Okay, it's like their little visual reference. You go to aisle 3, you're happy, you've been helped by a visual learner. Sometimes they might just tell it to you. It's likely to be an oral learner, or sometimes they will physically take you there. Yep, kinesthetic learners for sure. Let's move on. Let's look at another scenario. So instead of asking for directions, let's say this time we're going to be considering how we cook because we cook differently based upon our learning styles. Some people love to sit there and read the recipe. They love that visual reference, and if it's got pictures, even better. That's a visual learner for you. They want to be able to sit there and they want to be able to track it with their eyes and look at the recipe and know what they're doing is confidently cooking things the right way. Then there are other people who will just sit there and cook away and chat to you because they love the stimulation through their ears. So they love to chat. They might put on a podcast about cooking and listen to people talking about the recipe while they cook it. They might switch the TV on so they can listen to the TV while they cook. Those people are going to be your oral learners. And then your kinesthetic learners, well, they love to get their hands dirty. They're going to be the people who are going to put both hands in that salad bowl and mix it with their hands because they love the feel of it. Alternatively, they're going to be taste testing it. They're the people who want to be getting in there with their hands and working as part of the cooking process rather than being somebody who's just managing it. Make sense? So you can use these things to your advantage. I hope this is starting to stimulate the ways that in your workplace and when you're working, when you're training people, that you can identify your visual, oral, and kinesthetic learners and use those learning styles to your advantage. One last thing I want to point out at this juncture in this video as well, that sometimes students might think that we want you to go out and focus on identifying the learning styles of every participant you're working with. We're not necessarily asking you to do that, but we want you to be aware of this because it will help you solve problems when some of your learners aren't learning well. But one of the things that can really help you if you've got a group or a class is just provide some variety, provide different methods of delivery that appeal to all the different learning styles. Have some variety, a little bit of everything. Don't just stand up the front and lecture. Your oral learners will love it. Your visual learners and kinesthetic learners, they will go to sleep. Sometimes get people to do activities that are involved. Kinesthetic learners love that. Sometimes show some fantastic PowerPoint slides. Visual learners are going to love you. Mix it up, have variety in your delivery so that you appeal to all of the three learning styles. That's probably the most important thing you need to remember when it comes to this section of the course. All right, thanks for watching.